The smell of mesquite smoke and sizzling ribs drifted through the evening air as the Lin family's annual summer BBQ got underway in suburban Phoenix. Laughter echoed off the back patio walls, children darted between lawn chairs, and uncles nursed beers while debating fantasy football drafts. I leaned against the side fence, 32 now, but still treated like the confused art major who never figured life out. My younger sister Clarissa lit up the center of the gathering in her pale blue jumpsuit, animatedly describing her latest success to a circle of doting relatives. Clarissa just finished her dual masters at Wharton and MIT, my mom announced, loud enough for everyone, including me, to hear. She's had back-to-back interviews with Fortune 500 companies. That girl is going places. She smiled like she had coached every step of Clarissa's life. I sipped from my lemonade and waited for the inevitable follow-up. Meanwhile, she added, her tone shifting, some of us still can't decide what we want to do. Isn't that right, Emily? I raised an eyebrow but said nothing. Across the patio, my father chuckled as he flipped a steak on the grill. Still tinkering with your little business thing? He asked. What was it again? Digital workflow something? He laughed, not unkindly, but dismissively as always. I ran my thumb along the condensation of my glass, thinking about the 9 a.m. boardroom meeting tomorrow, the one where we would close on the acquisition of Halden & Co. and announce our newly expanded executive team. The one where I, founder and CEO of Cascade Logic, would sign off on the final approvals. Something like that, I murmured, letting it slide. Just then, Clarissa clapped her hands to get everyone's attention. Guess what? I've got a big interview tomorrow with Cascade Logic. They reached out directly. It's one of the hottest tech consultancies in the country. Cheers and congratulations erupted instantly. My Aunt Vivian rushed forward with a glass of rosé. That's amazing, Clarissa. I read an article about their founder. Brilliant woman, totally self-made. My dad nodded in approval. Their hiring bar is insanely high. They don't just take anyone. I held back a laugh, remembering the neatly prepared shortlist from HR sitting in my inbox, including Clarissa's resume. She had no idea the company she'd been gushing about for weeks was mine, that I had built Cascade Logic from my studio apartment in Tempe a decade ago, that while she climbed ladders others set for her, I had forged my own. What position are you interviewing for? I asked, keeping my tone light. Her eyes sparkled. Senior Strategy Consultant. Can you imagine? That's practically executive level. Oh, I replied, smiling into my glass. I look forward to seeing how that goes. She laughed, then added with syrupy pity. Maybe once I'm hired, I can put in a good word for you, Emily. I'm sure Cascade Logic has a few entry-level admin roles. My mother gave an approving nod. That's very kind of you, darling. Lord knows your sister could use the help. 32 and still, she trailed off, gesturing vaguely in my direction. Whatever this is. I thought about my penthouse corner office in downtown Phoenix, nestled on the 27th floor of the Cascade Logic headquarters, with floor-to-ceiling windows and a private conference lounge. About the Forbes profile last month that named me one of the most influential women in tech, though it had credited me by my professional alias, Lin, and featured a silhouette photo that protected my anonymity. I'd spent the last 10 years building Cascade Logic in the shadows. By choice. I knew one day this moment would come. That's thoughtful of you, I said, voice calm, almost amused. Good luck tomorrow, Clarissa smirked, brushing a non-existent speck off her manicured sleeve. Some of us make our own luck, Emily. You should try it sometime. The conversation moved on, to my cousin's new condo, my uncle's pickleball championship, and more of Clarissa's academic glories. I let their words drift past me like static. Tomorrow would change everything. And I wanted to remember every detail of this last evening, this final time they all still saw me as the afterthought. As dusk set in, casting golden shadows across the stone patio, Clarissa stood up, clinking her glass for attention. I've got to head out early, she said. I want to be sharp for tomorrow. Cascade Logic CEO sitting in on final interviews, she added proudly. Lin or something. Nobody even knows who they really are. Well, they'll adore me, she declared, brushing her hair back confidently. By this time tomorrow, I'll be part of their executive strategy team. Maybe then you'll finally have something to brag about, she said to Mom with a wink. Oh, honey, Mom cooed, dabbing her eyes dramatically. We're already so proud. At least one of our daughters stayed on track. I glanced at my watch. 13 hours and 58 minutes until Clarissa would walk into the conference room and see me at the head of the table. 13 hours until everything they believed about me collapsed. I gathered my things, murmuring something about an early client call. Oh yes, your little remote gig, Mom waved off. Just don't forget to Venmo your share of your father's birthday gift. Clarissa already covered most of it again. I nodded without replying. They didn't need to know that my remote gig had grossed 8 figures last quarter. Let them cling to their assumptions. I slipped behind the wheel of the unremarkable gray SUV I reserve for family events, leaving my white Mercedes AMG parked safely in the underground garage downtown. As I reversed out of the driveway, Clarissa's voice rang out one last time across the lawn, loud and certain. Tomorrow, everything changes. She was right. Just not the way she thought. If you want to see Clarissa's face when she realizes who's sitting across the interview table, make sure you hit subscribe, 'cause trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. What a waste. Can't even land a real job. I smiled faintly, recalling the brushed metal nameplate that sat front and center on my desk. E.R. Lynn, Chief Executive Officer, Cascade Logic. Tomorrow, Clarissa would find out exactly what a real job looked like, and why she'd never have one at my company. By 6:30 a.m., I was already in my corner office overlooking Camelback Mountain, sunlight casting golden streaks across the skyline. The quiet hum of early morning systems booting up was oddly comforting. I'd built this from the ground up, and today it would come full circle. The tailored slate gray Alexander McQueen suit felt less like fashion and more like armor. As I reviewed the agenda, my executive assistant Naya knocked gently and stepped in. Your sister's interview is set for 9 a.m. sharp, she said, handing me a slim folder. She's already in the lobby. Arrived 25 minutes early. Punctual. That's new. I arched an eyebrow. She's also posted about it. Future executive at Cascade Logic. Her words. Marketing picked it up. She's even told front desk she plans to modernize the lookup here once she's hired. I stifled a chuckle. Has she now? I opened the folder. On paper, Clarissa looked flawless. Dual degrees, glowing recs, polished experience. But I knew better. The internships, set up through Dad's connections. The praise, courtesy of our uncle's law firm. A manufactured resume wrapped in designer polish. The board's wondering why you're personally handling this one, Nia added with a smirk. Quality control, I said simply, rising from my chair. How many interviews before mine? The read, she replied. All briefed. They'll ask the right questions. By 9:00 a.m., I stood behind the one-way glass on the upper floor, watching Clarissa strut into the conference suite. Chanel suit, Prada heels, air of superiority. She shook hands with the first interviewer like she owned the place. Over the next 2 hours, I watched her mask slip. Every scripted answer unraveled. Every shallow credential probed. Every assumed accomplishment challenged. By the time she reached the final interview, mine, her eyes were tired, her voice uncertain, her smile noticeably forced. Send her in, I told Nia. She stepped inside my office, trying to hide her awe as she took in the floor-to-ceiling windows, curated art pieces, and the understated dominance of the room. My back was to her, chair turned toward the panoramic view. Please, have a seat, Miss Lynn, I said, voice calm and clipped. She said, folding her hands in her lap. Thank you for meeting with me, Mr. Lynn. I understand how valuable your time is. I turned slowly in my chair, letting the moment stretch. Actually, I said, locking eyes with her, it's Miss Lynn. Emily Renee Lynn. The blood drained from her face as realization set in. The name on the walls. The initials on the press releases. The woman she'd dismissed for years. Ugh. Emily. Hello, Clarissa. I offered a calm smile. Surprised to see your directionless sister running the company you've been dying to work for? She blinked rapidly, her perfectly composed persona unraveling as her lips parted soundlessly. Whatever polished answers she'd rehearsed were gone. But this doesn't make sense, she stammered. You're just a freelance consultant. That's what Mom said. Am I? I gestured toward the wall behind me, lined with plaques, innovation awards, and framed magazine covers celebrating Cascade Logic as one of the fastest-growing tech firms in the Southwest. I built this company from scratch, while you and Mom were laughing about my little business thing. Every time you flaunted your MBA, I was negotiating international contracts. Every time Dad called me a phase, I was landing Fortune 100 clients. You tricked us! Her voice cracked, rising with disbelief. You lied! No, Clarissa, I replied, my tone even. You all tricked yourselves. You were so busy assuming I was a failure that you never once stopped to ask what I was actually building. I picked up my phone and opened my banking app, turning it so she could see. That birthday money Mom mentioned? I just sent my share. It's a 6-figure transfer. To me, it's a rounding error. Tears welled in her eyes, not sorrowful, but angry and humiliated. So what now? You're going to expose me? Tell the whole family? I shook my head. I don't need to say anything. Your interview performance today says it all. 3 senior partners, independent of one another, recommended against hiring you. Too arrogant, too surface level, unprepared, entitled. You set me up. I gave you exactly what you asked for, an interview with the CEO. It's not my fault you didn't come ready. I stood, smoothing the front of my suit. I suggest you look for opportunities elsewhere, Clarissa. And maybe develop some real experience. Something beyond LinkedIn posts and Dad's golf connections. She rose unsteadily, her designer heels now awkward and her designer outfit suddenly looking more like a costume than power wear. Do Mom and Dad know? They will, I said, stepping toward the door. I'm sure you'll tell them all about your interview with E.R. Lynn. I pressed the intercom. Nia, please escort Miss Lynn out. And cancel my dinner plans with the family. Yes, ma'am, Nia responded. I've got a board meeting that needs my full attention. As the door closed behind her, I heard the sharp crack of her voice break in the hallway, followed by muffled sobs, not the victorious exit she had envisioned. Within an hour, my phone buzzed with family messages. Mom was first. What kind of cruel joke is this? Clarissa is devastated. Then Dad, how dare you humiliate your sister like this? We raised you better. I looked at the screen, let out a breath, and turned it face down. They finally knew who I really was. They just didn't realize I had stopped needing their approval a long time ago. I replied to the family group chat with just one message. You raised me to be successful. Congratulations. You did. Now maybe you'll recognize what real achievement looks like. Then I powered off my phone and turned my attention back to what actually mattered, leading a billion-dollar tech firm that had disrupted an entire industry while they were too busy mocking me. Let them adjust to this new reality in their own time. I wasn't going to pause for their discomfort. In the weeks that followed, the shift in family dynamics was unmistakable. The tone of our calls, when they happened, was strained. Gone were the dismissive digs and passive-aggressive jokes about my little business. Instead, there were awkward silences, forced smiles during Zoom birthdays, and a general unease that hovered like fog. Clarissa accepted a mid-tier project coordinator role at a boutique agency across town. It wasn't the career-defining leap she'd imagined. No fancy title, no corporate corner office. Just a standard job, earned the traditional way. Mom and Dad stopped hosting their regular Sunday BBQs. Maybe it was shame. Maybe they didn't know how to navigate a world where the daughter they'd underestimated now ran the empire they once ridiculed. But the moment that cemented everything came 3 months later. Forbes released a feature titled The Silent Success, How One Woman Built a Billion-Dollar Company While Her Family Thought She Was Failing. My face was on the cover, full color, crisp suit, Cascade Logic's skyline behind me, no shadows, no ambiguity, just me. I had 10 copies express delivered to each of my family members' homes. Not with a note, not with a message, just the magazine, just the truth. The article detailed my journey from working odd freelance gigs in a cramped Tempe apartment to building one of the most sought-after AI-integrated systems companies in the U.S. It highlighted the turning points, the quiet sacrifices, the relentless perseverance they never saw and never asked about. At the end, the final line read, "Sometimes success doesn't need to shout, sometimes it just signs the checks." And honestly, that was enough. I didn't need their praise anymore, or their recognition. I had built something real, something lasting, something they could never take away. Let them tell their friends. Let them adjust their stories to make themselves look better in hindsight. Let them pretend they always knew. Meanwhile, I'd be at Cascade Logic, preparing for our expansion into Europe, closing 2 new enterprise deals, and mentoring the next generation of female tech founders. Success had already spoken, for itself and for me, and I had no intention of turning the volume down. If you've ever been underestimated by the people who were supposed to believe in you the most, trust me, I see you. I spent years being told I was too vague, too artsy, too lost. While my sister basked in praise, I was the family's punchline. But I didn't fight back with arguments or approval seeking. I built something real. Something they couldn't ignore, even if they tried. And now, after all the silence, I'm finally telling my story, not out of spite, but to remind you, your worth is not defined by how others see you. It's defined by how you see yourself. So if you've ever been made to feel small at a family dinner, if you've hidden your success just to keep the peace, or if you're still building in the shadows, drop a comment below and tell me your story. Tell me what you're working on, what you've overcome, or who you're proving wrong. Not for revenge, but for your own damn peace. And if you felt even a flicker of validation watching me rise from unemployable to CEO, hit that subscribe button. Not just for more stories like mine, but to be part of a community that sees through the noise and recognizes quiet resilience for what it really is. Strength. Let them laugh. Let them doubt. We'll keep building, because sometimes the best way to win is in silence until your name is on the building. Before you go, how's your day been? Really, I want to know. Have you had a small win you're proud of? Or maybe you're facing something tough and pushing through anyway. Drop it in the comments. I read every one. This channel isn't just about success stories. It's about real people doing real work, even when no one's watching. Let's celebrate the quiet victories together.